Salvete omnes! It's Magister Compton, and today we're going to be hitting the chapter 14 and 15 grammar, focusing on third declension nouns and the ablative of manner. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to talk about third declension nouns, both the male and female ones and the neuter ones. That's why it's chapters 14 and 15. 14 deals with male and female, 15 deals with the neuter. We're also going to throw in this new ablative phrase called the ablative of manner. You've seen examples of it throughout your life, both in Latin and outside of Latin. We're going to talk about exactly what it is and why it's called what it is. But we're going to start off with the third declension today. So you can spell a third declension noun because of the genitive ending, the ending of the second form in vocab, is going to be is. So if you look at your vocab lists for 14 and 15, you will see a lot of nouns that have that genitive ending. And so that's how we're introducing our third declension to you. There's no consistent nominative ending. So remember, with second declension, you had us and or maybe an if it was neuter. In first, it was always a. So you could always kind of tell, looking at the vocab, this is probably a first, is probably a second, based on the ending. But you can't do that with third. So when you're declining, you can't automatically assume you know what the nominative ending is. So it's really important that you memorize the vocab and you memorize the nominative. There are, however, some nominative endings that can tell you things about the word. So two of them would be tos and tudo. Nouns with these endings usually are feminine. You have one in your vocab list, caleritas. And they usually mean the quality of. So they're usually taking an adjective and pairing this ending on it and making it into a noun. So examples here, pietas, the quality of being pius. Pius means loyal. So pietas would be the quality of being loyal, aka loyalty. Fortitudo, the quality of being fortis. Fortis means brave or strong. So fortitudo, the quality of being brave or strong, bravery, strength. Another one is tor or trix. Tor is the male version, trix is the feminine. And this is one who uses or one who does. All right? So an aviator would be one who, for lack of a better term, uses a bird. Well, what would you use a bird for? Well, because you'd be flying. So an aviator is a flyer. A gladiatrix, on the other hand, is one who uses a gladius, a sword. So a gladiatrix is a female gladiator. Gladiator is another one. You can think of lots of these in English, doctor, pastor, words, all these words like that end in tor. We don't usually use the trix anymore. Trix is kind of morphed into tress, like actress, actor. But yeah, a lot of these words become cognates in English. They come exactly as is from Latin into English. Likewise with the tos and tudo words, tude, fortitude in English, and then tossed often turns into ty, so piety, loyalty in English. Okay, so these do kind of morph over nicely into our own language. All right, so before we get into the actual third declension endings, it'd be important for us to look at the universal rules, because then we can see how are these going to fit in the third declension. How does the third sort of evidence the universality? All right, so in the nominative case, the singular is always given. All right, when you get the vocab, you're going to get the nominative. And as I said, with third declension, it's really important that you remember the nominative form, not just the ending, but the whole form. It's the only way you'll know the nominative. It's not got an ending you can just slap on it. On the plural side, once you get to third declension, you're going to imitate the accusative plural. We've been imitating the genitive singular with I and AE, but now we're going to use the accusative plural. And that's going to work for third and fourth and fifth. The genitive singular is also always a given, and it has to be because that's how we know what declension we're working with. On the plural side, the genitive plural always ends in and usually there's the dominant vowel. Sometimes there's the dominant vowel followed by an R, but the last two letters are always going to be In the dative, from the third declension onward, the singular is going to end in I, a long I, and it usually will pair with the dominant vowel. I will say for the genitive plural and the dative singular for third, that will not be the case. You're just going to have and you're just going to have I, because the stems that third declension generates to attach to are not conducive to having the dominant vowel fronting these endings. So we don't always do that. Okay? But then on the dative side, it's always is, ibus, or abus. Once you've used it twice, you move on. Well, we've used is in first and second declensions, so it's time for us to move on. Accusative, it's always the dominant vowel plus M. Okay? And the plural is always the dominant vowel plus S. So that's what the nominative plural will be too, because, well, that's what happens in third. You repeat. And then the ablative, you have the single long vowel, the dominant vowel. All these blanks, by the way, always you fill in with the dominant vowel. And then the ablative plural is whatever the dative plural is. So since it's probably going to be ibus, most likely the ablative will be ibus too. All right? So this is what we know of the universal rules. Let's see how they work out with our actual endings. Okay, so here's the male and female ones. The nominative singular is no pattern, NP. So whatever form you're given as the nominative singular, that's what you're going to use. The plural is going to be A's. So that gives us a hint that our dominant vowel is probably going to be E, since this is supposed to be imitating the accusative plural. The genitive is is. Again, you'll get that. And the plural is When you go from nominative to genitive, pay very close attention to spelling changes. Some of the words that we had in this chapter, there's no spelling change. Other ones like mater and pater, there's a simple change, like you just lose the E, which you're familiar with that from second declension. Words like, puer, pueri, or ager, agri. But then some changes will be drastic. Okay, so pay close attention to what happens when you go from nominative to genitive singular. The dative is going to be long I, and the plural is going to be ibus. The accusative is em, so that's kind of helping confirm that E is the dominant vowel here. And the plural is A's, which, again, thanks to the universal rules, we knew that. We know the nominative plural is going to be the same as the accusative, so we already saw that. And the ablative is a short E, so this is the one ablative ending that's not long, but it's still the dominant vowel by itself. And then ibus is the plural, just like the dative is. So let's take a look at an actual noun and see how this works. So we're going to use dux, ducus from our vocab list. So the singular is dux, and the plural is duces. Notice when we go to the plural column, we're using what we find in the genitive, the duc. Okay, so once we get down to the genitive singular, that ducus is going to be the root of all our other forms. The is will come off, and the other endings will go on. Okay, the genitive is ducis, and the plural side is ducum. The dative is duci, and the plural of that is ducibus. The accusative is ducem, and the plural is duces, again, just like the nominative is. And the ablative is duce, the plural is ducibus. Okay. Duce, by the way, that's also the Italian word for leader. Those of you who know anything about World War II history, Benito Mussolini, the dictator in Italy during World War II, that was his Italian title, Il Duce, D-U-C-E, the leader. So duce is the same in Latin and in Italian. It's just in Italian that is the form, whereas in Latin it is a form. All right. That's the great thing about Italian. In most cases, if you know the Latin word, just make it ablative, and now you've got the Italian version of that word. Okay, so this is what a male or female noun would do. Okay. In our next video, we're gonna look at what would a neuter noun do. So remember, being neuter is a little bit different. and we're going to review what the differences are before we get into it. But just take a look at this. Whether or not it's male like Dukes or female like Caleritas, this is what it should end up looking like. Okay? So, until later, we talk about the neuter third declension. This is Magister Compton signing off. Wale te omnes.